Right now, next up,
The Pit Life Comedy Podcast with Philip Anthony.
And you are not going to move.
Pain is temporary, but laughter is forever.
All right, we're officially recording. Let me just open my C4. I don't drink these, but since you're here, in honor of Eddie Diesel, we're going to have the C4s. So, cheers. Man, that's good. Hawaiian Punch joint. All right, so welcome to episode 2 of Pit Life Comedy, where pain is temporary and laughter is forever. So, last episode, we had Johnny Moyo Torres come out, and he talked about laughing through the loss, right? And so today, I brought a special guest who's a really good friend of mine, someone who's been doing comedy with me for, it's been 6-7 years?
Dude, we always lose count. It's
Yeah.
time just flies.
Because you be adding years. No, so, but he has a great story, and comedy really played a big part of that. And so, not only did it help him in his life, but he's also a comedian now. So, I wanted to invite him. Please welcome our guest today, comedian Eddie Diesel.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So, let me just. All right. I forgot to lift my table, yo. It's a little warm in here, but it is what it is. We got all the lights and stuff. But I wanted to bring you on today because I know your story. So I wanted you to, I guess, to start off, let's tell the listeners and viewers about who you are, how you started comedy, and what was the impact that it had on you at that time, right? Like, because it all happened at a specific time in your life.
Yeah. Well, I was born and raised in Springfield. I ended up becoming a Springfield police officer back in 2016.
Stop the interview. No, just kidding.
No, I took that undertaking, and it was one of those things where I never wanted to be a cop at all. It just happened to the point where I went to school for that. The test came about. I started it. I did get into marriage rather quickly when I was, young and dumb, thinking of things. I was dating a girl, she got pregnant, and I thought I was doing the right thing, the old school thing, to, marry the person you impregnated, but apparently it wasn't the right move for me. Long story short, it was a very, very bad divorce to the point where I almost lost it all. I almost lost my job. I almost lost my freedom. I lost a lot to the point where it brought me to a very, very, very dark place. And, with being a police officer, having such a stressful career, adding that stress that I was, observing on a daily, shift rotation, to add on the fact that, I walk into an empty house where everything was taken from me unfairly, and I almost, got fired for false allegations. I almost, a lot of things happened, and I had to fight through that. At first, I was going out, drinking, trying to numb away the pain. I had to realize that I was in a dark place. When I would feel good when I was a little drunk and a little tipsy and stuff like that, the next morning I felt even more in pain, both physically and emotionally. It came to the point where it was so bad that, I really didn't leave my house. I really just didn't care about my parents. I didn't get a haircut. I really wasn't there. It took somebody like my mother to really just walk in and say, hey, you need to get out of this funk. You need to really just, find yourself again. I don't know who you are anymore. You know what? Come to a comedy show that, one of my friends is throwing, and that friend ended up being you, And I always say this to people all the time. God doesn't make mistakes. All of a sudden, I never met you, but you've seen me before on social media doing funny things.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. But again, you were one of the ones that's like, hey, I know you, man. We got to talk after the show. We got to talk. Again, and this was before you even came up with the Pit Life, before you even came up with any of your mental health things, because I feel like, you brought that up when our journey started going because you were observing people like us in that.
No, well, I've always had the laughter is life, so keep laughing. That's been something I've been doing for over 10 years. And so, but it was at a time where I was pivoting towards that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? That was the direction my comedy was heading in, because I felt like I wanted to do comedy with a purpose instead of the original goal that we all had. Oh, we're going to go to do all the best comedy clubs and be a Kevin Hart. But anyway, so go ahead.
No, so, you were one of the pivotal points in my life where I had to say, I need something that's going to help me out. And at that point in time, I didn't really think therapy was for me. Like all us Hispanic men, we always shy to seek help for mental health. And I will get into that further into that because I got even more bigger stories when it comes to that. But, you told me, hey, I got a show coming up in a few weeks. I know you love to perform. I know you've been in plays. I know you're a funny guy. You're like, do you want 5 minutes on my show? And I was like, you know what? Why not? So we met for lunch. We had Moe's. I still,
No.
yeah, it was Moe's.
Applebee's.
It was Moe's.
It was Applebee's in Boston Road. I don't go to Moe's.
Oh, okay. It was Applebee's. All right. Right across the street from
Tell a
Moe's.
fat guy where we went to eat.
But again, like, we went there and you were like, tell me about yourself. Like, what's going on? At that point, I'm a police officer. I'm a single dad. My divorce was just crazy. I lost it. You told me, talk about that. And again, I love stand-up comedy, but I never really understood. I thought it was just like, hey, knock, knock, who's there? Like, whatever. I never really understood that. And I look back, most of these comedians that are super successful talk about their pain. And you told me that, you're like, you know what? Talk about that. Come up with some stuff, like, exaggerate a little bit, but still stay true to who you are, stay true to your story, because you never know who went through that same thing, bro. Now, that hit me really hard. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I did that show. I was super nervous, and this was the first time I did stand-up comedy. I've done plays. I worked in Six Flags Entertainment for years. I was used to performing in front of thousands of people, but this is the first time that I was doing stand-up comedy. Went up there those 5 minutes. It went by too fast. I really wanted to keep going, but I had the crew going, and you told me straight up, "Hey, when I give you the light, like you're a feature. We got to keep the show, wrap it up." So, at that moment in time, I felt a crazy high of like great emotions, to the point where I felt like my pain just floated away because I was able to bring joy to them, and they brought joy to me. So that was like my therapy without a copay. From there, you told me, "Yo, you murdered it, bro. I got 10 minutes next show. You down? Let's go." Did the same thing. I thought about what I went through. I thought about the different situations that I had. And I started writing. I started getting into ideas. I started just in my mirror, like really, YouTubing the most popular comedians, seeing what different styles work out. Did those 10 minutes. Did amazing. The following month show, because you used to do a monthly show. Following month show, you're like, "Eddie, I'm going to ask you something. You got to be honest with me if you think you can do it or not. But I think you can do it. I'm going to have you host." My heart dropped. I was like, and for those of you who don't know about hosting a comedy show, it's one of the hardest things that you can do in comedy. And to be a good host, it takes a lot. And again, I learned a lot from him, and I learned a lot from Artie Robb. In order for you to be a good host, you need to warm up the crowd. You're the first person they see. And if a comedian doesn't do so well, you're the one that needs to keep the show going. You need to, keep the pace going. You also need to be cognizant of the whole entire show as a whole. And I was nervous, and you were like, "You know what, get me some people, and then, we'll talk about, like how we work together." So I started using my old connections from my college days when I used to promote parties. And then we ended up, just packing the place up. And I think that, till this day, was one of my favorite sets I've ever done, because I felt like I was untouchable on that stage. I felt like everybody was there just there supporting me, laughing, but not fake laughing, but just laughing and like not really knowing that I was capable of this. And I didn't even know I was capable of that. The moment I got off there and that was the end of that show, everybody was super happy. And like, we just continued that momentum. You're like, "Hey, you shook my hand that day. You're like, you want to be partners? Like, let's do this together, bro. You're my little brother." From there, I feel like I was blessed because you started surrounding me with different people. One of the main connections you surrounded me with was Artie Robb. Rest in peace, Artie Robb, man. That dude, he was one of the pivotal moments of making the Diesel comedian into the Diesel comedian. And Artie Robb, he's from New York. He didn't drive. Phil, you were like, "Hey, I'm going to vouch for you. Give him a ride." And, like, he'll hook you up. Just, impress him. And if you impress him and you don't embarrass him out there, you're good.
Don't fuck it up.
Exactly. His words. So, first show we do with Artie Robb, it was a comedy art auction show in New Haven, right next to IKEA.
In Britain.
No, it was New Haven.
Oh, okay.
Right next to IKEA. It was that hotel in front of like where the food trucks are.
Okay.
So, at first, when I meet Artie, he goes, "Yo, what's good, little man?" I'm like, "What up, bro?" So he's like, "Yo, I'm drinking a little bit. You good?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." He goes, "Yo, pull over. I got to smoke real quick. You all set with that?" I'm like, "Yeah, you smoke?" I'm like, No, I'm good. So as we're heading over to the show, I'm talking with him and just like learning a lot because again, like you told me, and I looked him up, doing comedy for over decades and stuff, and has done a lot. When we get there, I do my set, and in the middle, like towards the end of my set, I always mention I'm a police officer. Yo,
and the siren. He said police officer and there's sirens in the background. I know you guys can hear that. That's hilarious.
Oh, you can hear that. See? Right on cue. But the moment I said that, he comes up to me and says, yo, motherfucker, you a cop? I was like, yeah. He goes, all right, good shit. So when we get home, just put your sirens on. Let's get home quick. But again, from there, you know, he got me opportunities and in front of a bunch of different people to the point where I always had it in my mind, hey, if these guys trust me enough to bring me to places that me as a new comedian have no business performing, I need to give it my all. And there was a lot that I learned from him too, because he told me, and we talk about it all the time, there's been shows that you and I have done with like 5 people. There's been shows that you and I have done with thousands of people. Yeah. And if you look at our comedy footage, we do not shy away from like giving it our all, whether it be 5 to 500 people, it doesn't matter. And he told me any chance you get to get on stage, that's work. The more you work, the better you're going to get. And there's been times where he's taking me to shows that I'm on a high horse because I just had 3 or 4 shows back to back that were like roaring, killing it. He tells me straight up, and I'm never going to forget this. It was a show in somewhere in New York. He goes, you think you're big and bad, huh? The next show you about to eat a bag of dicks. I'm like, what? Nah, shut up. He's like, oh, no, you big and bad. You're going to eat a bag of dicks. I remember and this was early, and this was like my first year in comedy. There was a room full of a bunch of Hispanic women. Forgot what joke I said that triggered all the Puerto Ricans in there. I lost the crowd. And I was like, it was such a shitty feeling because there's nothing I could say that anybody was paying attention to me anymore. I was done. I left before my light. He comes up and he's like, how you feel? I'm like, I feel like I ate a bag of dicks. He goes, oh, you want to quit? I'm like, hell no, it's going to make me better right now, you know? But again, it was those things that I had to go through to really just hone into what it was.
Love that. Yeah. But that's one of the gifts that Artie had, man. And the reason I reach out and I'm willing to help any comedian that like looking to do it. You know, some people will be haters and be like, well, you know, you haven't made it. How are you going to teach them? You know, if I can get you to where I am in half the time, cool. If I can give you a little head start, if I can give you 10 pieces of advice and you use one, then you're just better for that one piece. And that's all. Like, I'm not the guru. I'm not the know-it-all. I'm not that. But, you know, I'm genuine about wanting to help people and wanting to improve in comedy. I know how powerful comedy is. And one of the many gifts that Artie had was, you know, he knew what you were capable of even before you were, right? He knew what I can do before I knew where I can go. And I always watched him and learned from him. And I learned more from him on the car rides to and from the shows than we did at the shows, right? So that's huge. That's huge. But I want to correct you on a couple of things. I know there's comedians watching this too. That first show, you were in the feature. You were opener.
Yeah. Oh, not even.
You can't say that word. You were like a guest spot.
Guest spot. My bad.
They're gonna think I'm putting features on.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that was my fault. Let's retract that. We're good. Correct.
But like I've watched your growth. I've watched your passion for what you do. Like that's what it is. As comedians, we get our review as we're doing our job. Like if we're on stage and we're talking and they're not laughing, then we're not doing well, right? But as an actor, you go on these auditions. You've done auditions too, and you go all out. You want to do the reading. You want to do whatever it is to get this part. You going all out. You're pouring your heart into this one audition. And then they're like, okay, thank you. And you have to walk out not knowing.
That's the worst.
No, and then you're driving home like, how did I do? Should I have done different? And that's the kind of thing I don't like. Not only that, but you're in these auditions and you're surrounded by other talented people and you're hearing people singing. You're seeing people. You're like, damn, this dude looks better than me, or this dude is singing better than me, and it's tough. That just reminded me, like when I was single, my sex life. Did I do okay? Did I do all right? Oh my God, how was that? Like I was terrible. I knew I was terrible. You know, I don't like that feeling. I don't want to do that. So I like, you know, that in the moment, right? That connection that we make with the crowd, like you said, and that's the therapy right there. That's what it's about. I want to go back a little bit because, you know, you talked about the situation you were going through. I mean, when I met you, it was not the comedy show. It was at Palette.
That's right.
Right? Palette with Marcy. I'm older than him, but his memory sucks. So it was at Palette, and I forgot what we were there for. I think it was an event. Or
it was an event. That's what it was. It was a karaoke night. If my mom was there, it was karaoke.
Yeah.
She knows that.
I ended up singing Dream Boy, Dream Girl with my wife's cousin. I remember that night. And so I had seen you were working at that time. Not that time you had just become a cop, but before that you were working at Honda selling cars.
Yep.
And I used to see your videos and be like, this dude is stupid.
It worked. It worked.
But there was a creativity to what you were doing that I really liked. I was like, yes, like I could see somebody going, yeah, I want to buy a car from this guy, right? Because you had the likability. You weren't afraid to take chances on camera and do silly stuff. And I was like, if he can do this on stage, he's gonna be a beast. Like that's what you translate that, right? And that's not a lot of people can do that on YouTube. You see these guys that people follow and they got millions of followers, hundreds of thousands of followers, and they're funny in their videos, but then they go on stage, it doesn't really translate. Now the guys who are doing it, I see them taking the comedy a little more serious, knowing that, you know what, it's not, I can't just go up there and say these things. I gotta, there's work, right? So I appreciate that. But in the beginning, they were just thinking they can go on stage and be silly like they were doing on their YouTube channel and kill. And I've seen a lot of them bomb. So, it's not that easy. You can't translate so let's take you back when you said, it was the first time you did comedy, but you had done acting before, you had done other things. How is it different? Because I know when I moved from being a recording artist and I'm performing in front of people to comedy, for me it was like getting completely naked. Not like you do on stage. But it was like, because I went from having a song behind me that people either knew or could at least bop their head to, music that they could dance along with, maybe other people on stage with me, and then me singing a song that was just a song, to no music. I'm alone on stage. There's nothing behind me. They don't know what I'm going to say, so they can't sing along. It's just me and a mic. And then the biggest part of comedy that people forget is one word: expectation. Because now you're up there and people expect you to be funny because that's what they pay for. As a singer, when I was singing on stage, if I got up and hey, what's going on? My name is Philip Anthony, and I said something funny, they were like, oh my God, he's funny. Because they didn't expect funny. They expect this guy to sing, and they're like, oh, and he's funny. But when you go out as a comedian, they expect you to deliver because they came to a comedy show. For the people who just want to laugh, especially the people who need to laugh, they're like, please be funny. I need this right now. So that expectation is what really makes it tougher. So tell me how that transition was for you.
So originally, I never understood the difference of it. I just thought that, hey, I've worked in Six Flags for years. I'm always on the mic. People are expecting to be entertained. Like, I'm here hosting a Looney Tunes dance-off show. They're expecting me to be entertaining and engaging, I think, again, the person who really put out the differences right in front of me was already Rob. Because at first, when I first started, I had no idea what cadence or timing was. That didn't exist. Again, because, I've done musicals, I've done plays. All of that is scripted. In the script, it tells you, hey, when you're supposed to, walk towards stage left, or what emotion you need to have. It's always in italics underneath the line you're saying. Oh, you need to say this line angry. Okay, cool. You're telling me how to do that in the script. That's not how it is in the comedy stage. So at first, I was only getting a little bit of time. They give me 5-10 minutes here and there. Again, it's like it flies away. You don't even have time to take a breath. So at first, I thought it was just like, let me tell jokes here. Hey, my name's Eddie Diesel. I'm funny. You just go crazy, and there was a lot of punchlines that were missed. Timing was one thing that already told me, hey, bro, take it easy. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, you're not on stage. You're on the stage. You're not on the theater stage. You're fucking doing a musical, motherfucker. Yeah. That's how you're talking. Why don't you talk to me like you regularly talk? Like that. Yeah. That's how he told me. And I'm like, let me take a second. He's like, yeah,
you're not acting.
No, you're not acting. Stop thinking you're on the Broadway stage, motherfucker. You're here. You're doing comedy. Stop. Talk to me. Take your jokes. Laugh at your jokes. If you think your joke is funny, laugh a little bit. That's gonna make them. And that right there, the timing was everything, man. Timing was just. It was just something that I had to work with, and the more I worked at it, and you could tell because I would look at my stand up from when I first started with you to now. I'm actually speaking. I'm talking right now. And I learned a lot from you too. Because again, this is with us that we travel together all the time. There's times where I know you're having a good time, and I know you're just trying to get the hell out of there. And I tell you that all the time too. I'm like, yo, Phil, you weren't having fun. You're like, dude, I just want to get the hell out of here. But
that's rare. Like
yeah.
For me, I always like I want to get. I don't care if there's one person. I want to give them everything, right? And so, if I'm like that on stage, it's because I'm sick or something. Like,
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you, comedy heals me physically, right? I remember one time I was setting up an event in Westfield. And as I was setting up the stage and the tables and stuff, I told Buddha Joe, I was like, dude, I'm glad you're here. Be on standby. I don't feel good. I had to sit down because I was dizzy, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna just introduce the show, and I'll probably bring you up, and you're gonna host because I don't think I can do this, bro. And he was like, I got you. And when I went up and I started to introduce the show, as soon as I grabbed the mic and I started talking and I said something funny and they laughed, it was gone.
Medicine.
It was gone.
Medicine.
Now, mind you, when I got home that night, I was like, I was sick again. But it literally, it physically feeds me and makes me feel better. I mean, I can't explain it any better than that. It just, that's what it does to me.
I mean, for people who aren't used to being on the stage, they're not going to understand what we're saying, because that with us is our love and our true passion. Especially later into my career, both as a police officer and as a comedian, later on into my career is when I started, going through the most insane situations as a police officer. I mean, there would be shows where, just that morning, 'cause I work on the day shift, just that morning, like, I was plugging up a bullet hole, or like I saved the kid from Frozen Lake in Van Horn Park, and that night I'm here telling jokes, and I'm just like, in all reality, like, that right there really shows you mental health is something that's being ignored constantly. I went to Puerto Rico, and then I came back. I was on vacation. I came back. First day I came back, two people got shot, and we're here plugging up bullet holes. The guy was dead, but we're trying our best to save his life because he's covered in bullet holes. We did all we could, person died like right in our hands. A couple hours later, me and my partner in the car, like, hey, what are we having for lunch? I'm like,
you didn't shoot him, right?
No, it wasn't
okay.
me.
No, we gotta.
It wasn't me. It was just gang violence, and just stupidness that these young people are getting into. That it's sad, But again, like, it's stuff that we have to deal with. We have to pick up the pieces of a broken community. So at that point, I take a minute. I look at my partner. I'm like, dude, do you not realize how mentally unstable we have to be to do our job? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, bro, a normal person will probably never ever see somebody dead in front of them in their whole entire lifetime, and this is like a regular occurrence for us in Springfield.
I wouldn't call you guys mentally unstable. I would call you guys actually super mentally strong. You have to be really strong to not take that home with you, right? And people give a lot of police officers a bad rap. They don't understand that this is something you deal with day in and day out, and not all of them, but some of them get to the point they're so jaded that they're numb, and they seem like they don't care, and they seem heartless and cold. But sometimes that's what they have to do in order to deal with that and not take it home with them, right? They have to be cold and shut down. And they're like, oh, why is this cop such an asshole? It's not that he's an asshole, man. If you dealt with half the stuff that you guys deal with day in and day out, like, how would you cope, right? The suicide rate of police officers is what? It's got to be one of the highest, next to soldiers, next to, people in the military who served. And there's a reason for that. It's because you guys see things and you go through things that you don't understand. Like, you question humanity all the time. Like, who could do this? What kind of monster? Like, how can you, as a human being, then you got to go and then make people laugh, right? But I think that's the balance. When you do that, because I know, if I think back to one of the saddest days of my life was one of my best friends. I've been friends with him since I was like 13, 14. He met his wife when they were 14, 15, so a year later. So we've known each other all our lives. And, his daughter at 16 years old took her life. And I got the call, his son called me. I was living up here, and they live in New York still. And I jumped in my car, and I rushed down there. And I spent a few days with them through the ordeal until they put her in the ground. And when they put her in the ground, I can't remember experiencing so much sadness in me and around me, watching my family, my friends and my family that I've been with all my life, to see them going through that pain and the helplessness, like not to, like, what can we do about this, right? And that night, I was in the Bronx, and I had to do something. I was consumed with sadness. I was like, I need to go to a comedy show. And I drove all the way out to Brooklyn. That's the first time I met Aldo in person. We are talking about Aldo on the last podcast, and here he is again. And he was like, "Oh man, you came through." And I was like, "Yeah," because Aldo's been trying to get me to book him for years, but I don't like booking people unless I've seen them. And you know, people are vouching for him. They're like, "Yo, he's funny." I'm like, "Yeah, I got it, but I got to see him." So I went down there, and he's like, "Oh, but I'm just hosting tonight." I was like, "That's okay. I know what funny is." And he was like, "You want some time?" I was like, "Sure." And I was like, I just needed to be around laughs, whether I was somebody was making me laugh or I was making some people laugh. I needed to be around that in order to balance my heart, to balance my mind. That was what I needed. There's a lot of people that are that way and need the funny, but the only thing that stops them from being on stage is the fear of speaking publicly. Like Johnny Moyer, who we had last podcast, funny guy.
Funniest dude I know, like one of the funniest dudes I know.
Anybody, that's exactly what anybody says about him. Yo, he's super funny, and they're trying to get him up there, but it's not in him. So he has to deliver his comedy and use his sense of humor his way. So we got to respect that. But I love that that's what he has. It's a gift, man. It's a gift, and he shares it with everybody. So I commend you and all your brothers and sisters in blue for the things that you do every day. I just need you guys to spend more time on my block because they're starting to get into cars around here. So if you guys can, check it out. Man. But, it's really important. And I love that this is what helped you balance that. Because I know that on top of what you were going through, I have family been on the job. I have a cousin of mine who retired from NYPD, and he went from corrections at Rikers.
That's wild.
To NYPD. That's wild. And one of the things he told me that resonated with me forever when he was like, I said, "Yo, I should take the test for correction." He's like, "No, don't do it." He said, "The only difference between us and the inmates is that we get to go home every day."
He's not lying. And
when you're doing this job, he said, "Phil, this job sucks." So shout out to the CEOs out there because they're dealing with it too. So he was like, "No, we fight every day. We're going through this. We go home with that mentality. We're just inmates who get to go home every day." And so I was like, "All right, I don't want to do that," and I never did it. But yeah, so shout out to you guys for that, man. Thank you, Springfield PD and any PD for doing what you guys do.
No, and if one thing that we could share, especially people like that, and I'm talking firefighters, police officers, correction officers, anybody who's a first responder, anybody who's on the front lines, even military, right? I want to speak to each and every one of you minority men, especially us Black, Hispanic, Latino. Listen, mental health is something that cannot be ignored. There was a bunch of times where, Phil has been a great friend of mine that I've called him. And, not even comedy related. He's known the struggles that I've gone through.
I didn't want to pick up.
Yeah. But he's definitely been there through a lot of situations that I've had. There's been situations where I wanted to quit my job. There's been situations where, I feel like I've had enough. But then again, I had to think about what can I do to make this better? What can I do to make my community better? And again, people ask me all the time, what is the worst thing that you see as a cop? That question happens all the damn time. And me as a dad, it is anything that has to do with children. And those are the worst calls. We could get into a gunfight. It's all good. That's what we signed up for. Not what we signed up for. That's something that
It's part of the job.
Part of the job. Yeah. Nobody ever tells you got to be the first responder to a baby choking. Nobody tells you got to be there for a child, getting S8 or you don't even know what's going on with that child. Those children that you respond to houses where crawling in cockroaches, you see a baby riding on a rat or something just craziness like that.
That's how I grew up.
But again, you as a dad, really it resonates towards you. You want to save all these children. You want to just legit, take them out. Those kids have no chances, and those situations make me go home and just hug my kids even harder. And it's tough. It's tough because you say that, you don't want to bring that with you. But then us, we're people who work hard for what we got, and the moment that something goes wrong, we're quick to say, "Oh, damn, my life sucks." No, it doesn't. Because you know what? We got food in our fridge. We got a car. We got, clothes on our backs. Some people don't even know when the next meal is gonna come. You know,
every day, one of the things I do at some point in the day, I try to be more consistent with it, like to do it first thing in the morning, but I forget because I'm old. But one of the things I like to do is at least every day, at one point in the day, just think about 3 things that I'm grateful for, right? And there's so much, a ton of stuff. But and what are the things outside of family, outside of your job, like, right? Because those are things we're always gonna be grateful for. But what outside of that? So I'm always thinking that because, like you said, I really meant that when you talk about kids living in roach infested houses and rats. I grew up like that. I've been homeless and I lived in places like that. Like I remember going to one friend's house one time, and he lived in a nice neighborhood, and he didn't have any roaches, and I was like, where your roaches at? You like I thought everybody was supposed to have roaches. I was like, where you keep yours at? Like mine be right, but that was the norm for me, right? So every day I'm grateful that I'm not homeless. Every day I'm grateful that I'm not in a roach infested house. Every day I'm grateful that I don't got to worry about how I'm gonna eat. I get the luxury of thinking, what do I want to eat today, right? So, it can always be worse. It can always be worse, and because of that, I'm not even afraid to be rock bottom again because I've been there, and I was able to climb out. So, that's the fortitude I have because of how I grew up and how my mom raised us. So, she was always like that. She was like, hey, it could always be worse, no matter what. And she always put food on the table, and she always made sure, we had everything we needed. Not everything we wanted, but everything we needed.
No, I mean, and it goes back to us being in front of, like, different people every weekend. Especially, like, with these fundraiser shows that you got me involved in doing with your company, Funding for Funds. Those crowds are amazing. And, like, it'll be the most smallest crowd, but that one person that would come out to me, and you remember this show, there was this one lady who her husband died a few weeks before, and that was a few months before, and that was the first time that she actually went out. And I got a joke that I pull somebody on stage, and I do a lap dance on them, and I turn into Magic Miguel. I had no idea that this lady was going through what she went through, and her friends had to drag her out. But again, God don't make mistakes. Yes. For some reason, like, I singled her out because she was laughing. Like, you could tell, like, she was laughing with pain. And that laughter where it's like even her friends were enjoying the fact that she was laughing. I could have said things that they didn't think were funny, but just because their friend was laughing, they were bawling out dying. Nobody told me anything.
You say a lot of things that people don't think are funny.
Yeah. But again, like, I honed in on her for some reason. Like, someone told me, yo, you know what? Just like have fun with her. She looks like she's having a great time. I brought her up on stage. She had the time of her life. She comes up to me after. She goes, listen, I want to tell you something right now. I didn't want to come out. I lost my husband about 3 months ago. He was my best friend. This is the first time I laughed in so long, and I don't know what it was, but you're something special. I want to say thank you, yo. I got emotional. Right. I'm like, oh my God, dude. I'm like, I gave her the biggest hug. I'm like, yo, I got shirts here. I don't even want you to pay me for a shirt. I just want a hug, man. Like, she goes, no, give me a hug. Like, thank you. And all her friends were super grateful too. But again, you never know what somebody's going through, bro.
That to me is whoever you believe in, right? God, the universe, Jehovah, Buddha, whoever you believe. That's what that is. That's the divine power putting them and you in that place to make that happen because they know this is what they need. And I'm just happy that those friends and those people decide to listen to their friends and show up because I think that's what brought me in this direction because I've experienced that so many times, and there's nothing like that. We did a show, I think it was in Agawam, and the lady came up and she was like, my husband and I are here, and we haven't done anything in over 4 or 5 months because he was just diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer, and we were like, what? And she was like, we haven't had a reason or the ability to laugh in so long, and so we decided to come tonight together. And he's right over there. And she was just like, thank you guys. And I was like, wow, like I'm choked up, like giving her a hug, and we're all taking a picture with her, and I was like this is what it's about. This is what it's about. We're impacting these people, and they might not remember your name or my name, but they're gonna remember how they felt that day. And that's all I know. I remember how I felt. I can't remember her name. She walked in front of me today. I probably won't even recognize her, but I'll always remember that day how she made me feel. I think you kind of touched on it already, but what was the first time you remember bombing, and how did that feel?
The first time I bombed was that show that I talked about earlier with Artie. And again, I was brand new into the comedy scene. I knew nothing about reading the crowd. And, you know, us as comedians, we have our set material that is kind of like our roadmap to get us, you know, to the end of the treasure. As you get better in comedy, you're able to veer off and take little shortcuts, but always still stay true to the path. And that's why people are like, you know, I've seen your set before. I say the same jokes. It's not even that. It's just a set path that we go on, and as we get better, there's different things you add on to it. And you taught me that, you know, whenever you have something funny, think about 5 different tags to just like add on to it, extend this. Yo, when we're on the ride here, dude, I like that joke, but why don't you add this to it? And I always take those notes because, again, you learn as you're going. When I was brand new into the comedy scene, I had my set jokes, and I was like, I cannot veer off. I can't do crowd work yet. I'm not that strong. Let me just veer off here. I'm just going to go in with it. I only got about 5 minutes. Let me just go in and just not give a damn who's in the stage, not read my audience, not know that this joke is going to offend Hispanic women. They're all going to turn on me. The moment they turn on me, fuck it, I'm done. I didn't think of that. I was like, I'm a hot shot. You know, I'm ready to go, and bam, said my joke. I offended somebody, and everybody, oh, did he just say that? Oh shit, he just said. I'm like, just kidding, guys. Yeah, shit. Let's. And then I like, yo, Artie's like 6'7" in the back with his big ass smile. He goes, fucking dumbass. And I'm just like, I'm sweating. I'm just like, oh shit, oh god, like what's going on? But again, you know, it was one of those things where I needed that. I needed to humble me down and really make me understand, yo, you need to learn. You need to really figure out what you did wrong so that way you can learn from those mistakes. You know, and we always need to fall to get back up, bro. Yep. And you need those strong people around you to tell you, yo, you're not funny. You know, pick it up. You need to get better. You suck. You know, you need those people.
Artie. You ain't shit.
You ain't shit.
So I remember the first time I bombed was with Artie. We had a show out in Hudson, New York. It was Artie Robb, comedian A.G. White, and Freddie Ricks. And Freddie Ricks got the wrong address. He was in Hudson Street in New York City, and we were upstate in Hudson, New York. And I was just going for the ride. So they were like, Philip, you hosting. I was brand new. I would say months maybe, or a month, 2 months. I was like brand new. So I get on, and I start, you know, to host the show. And there's this older black lady there. She had to be in her 60s and whatever, and I'm in my, you know, from like 40, whatever. And she's heckling the crap out of me. She's like, "You suck." She's like, "When you going to be funny?" And I'm like, I'm trying, and I'm like, and then in my mind, I mean, I was still so new to comedy that I was like, she's an older lady. She's probably here with family. I was always raised not to disrespect my elders, so I'm like, I can't say nothing to her. Yeah. I'm gonna say. So then I got off and introduced Artie. Artie came up, and you know, he was like, she started with Artie too. He was like, "Hey, just chill out, mama." He started throwing little things at her, and she didn't stop because she was drunk. So he goes, "All right, hold on a second." And he stopped his whole set. He said, "You obviously want to make this show about you, so we're gonna make this show about you." And he took his chair, pulled it all the way to the middle of the floor in that room, and just laid into this woman and said some things that I was like, "You could say that." Yo, he even at one point he was like, "You asking my friend when he gonna be funny? When you gonna be cute?" Yo,
Artie, man.
Bro, it was relentless. He laid into her so bad she left. She left like she was like, "I'm out," and I was like amazed. So then when on the car ride home, I was like, "Artie, I didn't know you could do that." I was, you know, she's an older lady. He was like, "Fuck that." He's like, "Phil, if they want to be part of the show, you make them part of the show. That's it." Like, and he taught me there's different ways to handle hecklers, right? You know, some hecklers you got to ignore them because they're looking for that attention. Some of them, you know, you just got to make them part of the show, and that's it. You know, you want this? I'm gonna give you this heat, and he did it that day, and I was like, that was a clinic for me. Like I learned, I was like, wow, wait till the next one. I couldn't wait.
Dude, I feel like every time with Artie was a clinic, bro. Like there was so much that I learned every single time I was in. Like the thing with Artie is we would know his set because we've traveled with him so much. We would know his jokes, but there's different things, like different little tweaks. I'm like, yo, that was dope. One thing he taught me: if the crowd is dead, get into the crowd.
Yeah,
Get into the crowd.
Yeah,
And
he would get off the stage and walk around.
He would talk to people in their face, like literally make them feel uncomfortable. Be like this close, like, "What's up, man? What's up?"
Yeah.
Like, you know, and talk, and like the level of comfort that he had, it was something that I admired and I looked up to. And it was just like I was always asking questions. Just like with you, I still ask questions. I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? Yo, how do you think I can transition from this? And again, it's one of those things where you need good mentors that you're not going to be afraid to ask questions, because you're not going to make me feel stupid if I ask the question. Artie will still make me feel stupid, but he'll do it in a loving, like, you know, older brother type of way.
Yeah.
But again, anything I needed, anytime I needed, like, I would call him, he would be there. You know, he was there, and like, that's one of the people that we lost too soon in the comedy scene. And like, you know what? I forever grateful, and like people, let's say, you know, if I ever were to, you know, God willing, make it famous, one of the people that I would always like admire and always shout out to the day I die is Artie Robb, because again, he was such a good person. And anybody in the comedy scene will tell you, I don't care who you talk to, if you're a comedian and you have had dealings with Artie, he inspired or like really motivated just greatness and motivated positivity and really like just embraced his art to be able to just bring joy and life to everybody, man. And he'll forever be missed, man.
He had a gift. I remember, you know, when he passed, that was, it's still hard for me to talk about. It broke me, bro. I tried to speak at his thing. I couldn't. And I was crying like a little bitch. He would have said that. He was like, "You crying like a bitch." But one of the gifts that he had, right? Because when he passed, everybody online, Facebook was like, "Oh, my brother, blah blah blah." And I remember sitting with his mom, or his wife, my God, with his sister and her son and his son, and they were like talking, "Oh, I don't know who these people are. They think they act like they cool with him, but they ain't never been here. They never been with him. They never been." And I'm like, guys, let me just add some perspective. I was like, it's not about them, right? It's not about them lying and acting like they want attention because they lost somebody. Like, people will do that. Oh, rest in peace, and they just want people to tell them, "Oh, my condolences." It wasn't that with Artie. These people were like that because Artie had a gift of making everybody feel like they were his best friend. He made everybody feel special around him. He even made unfunny comedians think they were funny. No, including me when I started. But no, he had that gift of making people feel that way. Everybody felt if they crossed paths with him, he made them feel important. He made them feel seen. He made them feel special. And so when we lost him, all those people lost that. I mean, a lot of those people, he was the only one, right? But he was a great source for that, because if I'm a young comedian and I'm trying to make it, and here's Artie Robb, this veteran who's super funny, and he's all over the place doing comedy, and he's seeing something in me. Oh my God, that feels amazing, right? So that's what he did for a lot of people. And when I gave them that perspective, they were like, "Yeah, you're right, because that was my brother. Yeah, that was my dad, right? That's what he did." So it wasn't about them people trying to, you know, cry for attention. It was really, that's how he genuinely made people feel. I still talk to him when I'm taking him rides alone, and I'm like driving to a show in Boston, Rhode Island, New York, and I'm in the car. I'm talking to him on the way over there, and I talk to him on the way back, and I just like, because I want to know, you know, like I want to know that he's there with me, and I channel him, and then when I do well, I go home and say, "Yeah, that was you, bro, that was you," and I still give him credit for the good shows that I have, and I just keep doing it, man.
And then when you bomb it, he's there.
Then I blame you.
He's telling you you're in a bag of dicks.
Oh, that was Richie's fault. Like, somebody.
Richie always gets the blame, bro.
I gotta blame somebody. But yeah, man, I'm proud of you and your journey. If you like, I love that we're talking about mental health, because that's important, especially, you know, with everybody. I know you say men, but women too. Yeah. You know, there's times when women don't feel like they can talk to somebody because, you know, they're marginalized or they're taken advantage of. You know, so it is anybody who's going through something. Find the laughter. Find a way to laugh. Call somebody. Talk to. Don't keep it inside. You know, you have to bring it out and let it out. You can't. You carry it. It gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and it'll take you down Don't let it take you down. I'm not a therapist. We're not therapists, but I can tell you that comedy is healing, right? It really, really heals if you allow it to. So find a way to laugh. Find some kind of humor in the pain. I talk about on stage losing my dad to COVID when he died of COVID, April 17, 2020. People think that's a joke. That's a true story. That's what happened. He died of COVID. They didn't allow us to go see him in the hospital until they knew it was a wrap, and they invited us. I went to go see him on Thursday, and then got the call on Friday that he was no longer with us. And I knew. I think I was prepared for it because I knew how weak my dad was, because of all the stuff he did in life. He was fragile. He was frail, and so I knew he wasn't going to be able to fight this new thing that just came out, was killing everybody. But I found a way to talk about it on stage, and at the end, like, I bring the room down and then I bring them back up and they laugh. And I've had people come up to me, "Hey, I lost my dad. Hey, I lost my dad to COVID." So one lady said, "I lost my dad the same month." And I was like, wow, right? So, it's a common bond, but that's how I deal with it. I know you use a lot of that to deal with those tough times and the stuff in your head. I encourage everybody else to find a way to use that and do it, man, because it's important. Anything you want to say before we get done?
Honestly, like, it took me a while to actually even trust therapy. I am an advocate of seeking help, whether it be therapy or whatever outlet you have. But I'm going to tell you right now, therapy, I didn't believe in therapy. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to pay some college graduate to listen to my problems because they don't know what's going on. I had a traumatic experience at work to the point where I wanted to quit. One of my good friends got severely injured, almost lost his life. Mm-hmm. I had his blood on my hands. I didn't know how to act. I didn't know what was really going on. They offered, services with work. To everybody who responded to that call, it was about 40 different people. Only 3 of us showed up. Me, his partner, and him via Zoom. And again, I didn't know how to take that. I had to go in and tell, my watch commander, "Hey, I need some time off. I'm really I'm fucked up." And mind you, they looked at me as the biggest jokester in the world, but having, seeing my close friend to the point where, we hang out outside of work, almost died with, me having his blood on my hands, him, really just almost losing his life on a routine call that, there's no such thing as a routine call, but just a regular call for service that we had no idea it was going to happen. I was lashing out on my loved ones. I didn't know how to react. I was just angry on social. I was angry at everything. I called you a bunch of times "Yo, dude, what the hell's going on?" I sought out for help.
That was one on Franklin Street, right?
Yep. I sought out. I seeked for help. And because again, I didn't know how to deal with it. I asked for help. She helped me. There was issues going on with my marriage counseling. I didn't believe in that either. But right now, we went through our troubles. We're not perfect right now, but marriage counseling actually helped us listen to each other. And again, if you're going through issues, man, why not? I didn't believe in it at first because again, it's no, nothing's gonna. Listen, counseling helps. Talking to someone helps. And again, I'll end it with this too. If your loved one is going through something, please keep your ears open. And sometimes you need to keep your mouth shut, ears open. Don't be judgmental because people seek comfort in their loved ones. And if they can't talk to you, who are they going to talk to? And then they're going to try to reach out for that bottle, reach out for those drugs, reach out for other things they shouldn't be reaching out for when in reality, you were the one that should have reached out to and you were the one that should have held your arms open when they're reaching out to you. Because sometimes we feel like we're drowning. And my grandfather used to tell me the story, el payaso que no sonríe. And that's the clown that never smiles. Clowns have smiles painted on their face, but yet they're frowning under. They're making everybody else laugh when in reality, oh my God, right there, man. Mm-hmm. That one hit me hard again. Mm-hmm. Brought joy to everybody. You never know what somebody's going through. And he probably needed someone to listen to him, and he didn't have that.
We're talking about Robin Williams. For those of you listening on the audio podcast, I got a frame of Robin Williams, one of his comedy albums here, and so I just pointed at that. But that's huge, right? You gotta talk. But here's one thing, because we all want to help and do the right thing, but don't be afraid to ask the question, right? How can I help you best right now? Can I offer advice? Can I just shut up and listen? Which one do you want? Because we easily, we think that, let me give you advice, let me tell you what I think. We think people want answers. Sometimes they don't want answers. Sometimes they just want your ears. So shutting up and just listening is enough. I'm a life coach and a career coach, and I used to have this student that used to come into my office, and every time she walked in, I would ask her, am I listening or am I talking, right?
That's valid.
And sometimes she was like, the third option, she goes, no, I just need to cry. And I would lock my door, and I would continue working, and she would sit in the chair right now, and she would just cry. And then she would be like, thank you. And I'm like, you're good, I'm here. And then boom. Or sometimes she would say, I need advice. And I would offer advice. It's perspective. We don't have the answers, but we can offer perspective. That's what therapy is. It's perspective. They're taking both sides of the story in, and they're being they're unbiased, and they're just giving you a perspective. Like, I want you to see her side. I want you to see his side. Just kind of, once you see that, then you guys can meet in the middle, right? But that's it's perspective, man. Sometimes you just need that perspective, and sometimes you just need the ears. That's so important. You said that. Sometimes it's not about you trying to give the answers. I know you mean well. Your heart is there, but sometimes the ears are way more important than the mouth.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I said, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should be listening more than you should be speaking. Right? I mean, it's a true story. And before we go, I wanted to bring up another police officer with a great sense of humor who we came out for.
Cabezón.
We came out for, yes. Officer Santos. Everybody knows in Springfield, they know the story. You know, he was on his way to work, heard the call, ended up responding, or ended up in the area of the incident, and ended up getting shot both in his leg and his face. And he lost his eye, one of his eyes.
Yeah.
So, you know, we did this fundraiser for him, and, you know, I had to ask Eddie, I was like, yo, like, can we roast him a little bit? Like, you know, and he was like, you can tell. Like, when
I mean, obviously it's a valid point, because that's a scary situation, you know, to get shot at, but then to get shot, you know, actually shot. It was bad. I mean, that was a nightmare for all of us, especially Nestor being who he is. You know, forget about being a cop. Nestor is such a good guy in general. Like,
yes,
you know, and he does the job for the right reasons. I mean, we just had an award ceremony, and he had countless awards, not just because he got shot, but things he did before he got shot. You know what I'm saying? He's one of those guys that's like the frontline guys that does his job with professionalism and compassion. But again, like, he's one of the biggest ball busters in the world, right? So Phil asked me the question, hey, I know he got shot. I need to know, you know, what's allowed to be talked about. Like, you know, can we roast him? And I called Nestor, you know, out of respect. I'm like, yo, Nestor, you know we're doing the show for you, right? He goes, all right, yeah, I appreciate it. I'm like, bro, like, I'm going to ask this with all due respect. Is anything off limits? He goes, bro, if y'all don't fuck with me, I'm walking out right now. I'm like, Nestor, you said it, bro. So nothing's off limits. Yo, I want to laugh, bro. I need to laugh. Do I need to? And I'm telling you, like, when we went in, and this is the difference, though, because you taught me that you need to be able to have a comedy show and, like, make fun of people but not disrespect people.
Right.
And also have the ability to be clean with it. You know,
yeah.
We don't have to be vulgar. Like, you told me that. But when we made fun of him, it was in such a wholesome manner. But, like, we went in. But, again, like, I think that everybody was just there, happy that we were there for that reason, raising funds to help him in his journey to recovery, as opposed to helping his family raise money for funeral services or whatever that may be. So that was one of the biggest things. I got you. Yo, like, exactly. And again, I even said it. The first thing I said, I'm like, yo, I'm glad we're here for this and not for that. Because again, when nobody knew answers. When I'm talking about chaos, we had everybody texting everybody. What's going on? Officer shot. Like, and again, it was chaos. Nobody knew what was going on. The radios were going through the roof that night. It was shift change, so nobody knew what was going on. Everybody heard Nestor got shot. Everybody heard Nestor died. Everybody heard he's doing all right. Everybody heard he didn't get shot. It was just a bad game of telephone. Mm-hmm. To the point where it's now, like, you know, now he's up and about, like, really just trying to reintegrate himself into a regular life and, you know, a beautiful family. His son is a police officer in a town,
Southbridge, I think.
Yeah, somewhere out there. But again, his son is a good guy too. You know, young guy in the force as well, and you know, doing great things. I still believe Nestor's still trying to come back too. And again, I told Nestor, I'm like, Nestor, you're crazy, bro. But again, that's just the type of person he is. You know what I'm saying? But one of those, that show right there was near and dear to my heart, because at any point in time, that could have been me.
Yeah, it was a special show for me too. And it's probably when I heard it, and I was like, yo, you know this guy? And he was like, oh, do I know him? That's my boy. Yeah. And I was like, we need to do a fundraiser for him. and you were like, hell yeah, let's do it. And so we kind of did that on our own. It was just us two.
Yep.
You know, usually when we do Funny for Fun, we need a team, but you know, because we knew the support he had, and you know, it was just you and I. We were able to raise him a good amount of money, raise him over $8,000 in that night, and a lot of people stepped up for him. Other you know, once we announced our show, somebody else announced that they're gonna do a show for him. And it's fine. That more help for him, that's cool, great, right? But it meant a lot to do that for him because, you know, like I said that night, every day you guys put it on the line for us. And, you know, you never know what day is going to be the last day or what this day is going to be like. So you go out there and you take that chance every day. It's very rare that I get a chance to do something for you guys. So that day meant a lot to me to be able to do that for him. And the fact that he was able to take the jokes, that made it all better. It made it all better, man. So shout out to Nesta Santos, bro. You know, I'm honored to have met you and to be able to have done that for you that day. And I know when you see me, like I was at the Puerto Rican parade and somebody pulled up on me in a truck. And I was like, oh, and it was him. You know, he still was like, yo, what's up? Like I know he really appreciates it. So shout out to you, man. And I hope that you get to do whatever it is you want to do, whether it's go back to work or, you know, whatever it is you choose to do. But, you know, you got a friend right here. And,
shout out to Nessa, you beautiful family, man. The entire Santos family, bro. You guys are beautiful and amazing. And I'm happy you're alive, bro. Like I still say, like every time I see you, bro, I just want to hug you. I'm happy you're here, bro.
Yep.
And that's the important part.
Yeah, and you're welcome to any of my shows. You see me put something on, you want to go, just show up. I got you. And I guess it's a great way to end the show because, you know, you and him, you're both great examples of what pit life is, right? So, you know, I tell people, and I've been telling people for over 10 years, that laughter is life, so whether you keep laughing. But the main reason is because I want people to understand that pain is temporary, but laughter is forever. Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for being on the show, my brother.
Thank you, man. Always a pleasure.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Yes.
And I wonder who I'm gonna invite next. I don't know, but I'm so.
One more thing. Annie, I'm in Annie the musical, Springfield Public Community Theater.
See, now I gotta edit this fast,
damn,
so it comes out before your play starts.
I know. No, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I'm playing Rooster. It's right there, 52 Sumner Ave. Look it up online. Just look up 52 Sumner. It's gonna be amazing.
You're playing the cock.
Yeah. It's better than your role as Toto.
Hey, no.
It just takes a little courage.
I like Toto way better than cock.
Yeah, but I play a good cock.
Sorry. Yeah, Annie, 52 Sumner, great space for performances and events and plays like that. So I'm going to definitely come check that out. I went to check you out when you were in Lion King, so I'm definitely going to check this one out as well. When August 1st?
1st, 2nd, and 3rd. That's that weekend, the first weekend of August. It's going to be awesome. A lot of great talent, and I'm surprised that so many people have auditioned for it. We have a talented cast. We're working very, very hard now. My sister Jocelyn is in the play too. So she played Nala in The Lion King that we did in Active Theater in Hartford. But again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring art back to Springfield. Everybody here says, oh, there's nothing to do in Springfield. Yeah, because there is things that come up, but you guys don't want to support it. Let's go, guys. Let's bring it back and let's continue that, you know, this pursuit of art. You know, art is very important. People forget about that. But art is very important.
Absolutely. All right, so now let me end it again.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this helps somebody. Even if, you know, 1 million people listen to this and it helps one person, I'm glad that it helped you, whoever that is. So that's what it's about. We want people to understand you're not alone. We all go through stuff, and there's ways to deal with it. And there's people out here that help you deal with it. Go to a comedy show. If you've never been to one, please go. Sit down and just soak it in and understand that there's a vibe there. There's someone on stage that's making you laugh, and there's people around you that are laughing. And even if you're not like fully engulfed in that laughter, you're surrounded by it. That helps your energy. That helps you internally and externally. Trust me, laughter is that powerful. So with that, once again, thank you for tuning in to Pit Life Comedy, where pain is temporary, but laughter is forever.
See you guys.
Right now, next up, the Pit Life Comedy Podcast with Philip Anthony.
And you are not going to move.
Pain is temporary, but laughter is forever.